Goeiemorgen. I'm going to do some of the speech in Afrikaans, some in English. I'm not a public speaker and I don't know how to work electronics, so I do it from the heart. When Fani approached me and asked me to have a discussion on investments and investment in South Africa, I thought about it, and unfortunately I don't know a lot about investments. If I were successful, I would have been retired by now and not working, so I'd rather talk about something that I understand. And that's maybe Atterbury and the lessons that we've learned over the last 30 years. So maybe just a brief history. Atterbury is a company that was started in 1994 in Pretoria. We started as a property development company. So we started with one or two very small developments in Hatfield. And then the first big one we did was the Atterbury Value Mart. That was sort of in the mid-90s. And from that, as a base, we started growing. We developed first offices, then a bit of retail. And then we started doing shopping centers. So the first shopping center was Woodlands, Garden Route Mall, Cape Gate, Clearwater Mall, so a whole lot of shopping centers. And we built up a portfolio which we called At Fund. And we wanted to list it. But before the listing, we were approached by Hyprop, who was at that stage the biggest shopping center fund, and they bought the whole portfolio. And that was sort of the 2007, 2008. We then started again with property development. We sold most of our portfolio. And at that stage, we did sort of a landmark deal, which is called Waterfall, where currently Mall of Africa is. We did a transaction with the Mia family. They owned, it's the Islamic Institute, they own all that land around Waterfall. And it's actually a funny story how we got to that. One of the ladies that worked for Atterbury was friends with their financial director, and they went on a tender. They had 300 hectares in Midrand, which they wanted to develop. And they had sort of a close, selected tender. They had Investec there, and I know Zenprop, a couple of big companies. We weren't in the run. We weren't even aware of that. And the guys had to come with proposals on what will they do on the land. And the reason why I tell the story now is at the end when I'm going to discuss with you some lessons that we've learned over the years. It's very applicable to the story. And so this lady that works at Atterbury was on holiday, and she had a discussion with her friend, and he was the FD of the Mia family at that stage. And she said, but can we also, come and give a proposal? And the guy said, you can, but you're a bit late. I mean, we started this process 6 months ago. That was over the December holiday. So in January, we went there, we saw the family, and by the end of January, we had to submit the final sort of proposal. And then we were successful. So we bought all that land, and funny enough, the reason the Mia family gave, afterwards we asked them, so how did you decide? So they said, it's interesting, but when the final proposal was presented, the investor guys flew in from the UK, and they came with a big presentation. And the Zenprop guys flew in from Israel, and they gave their presentation. And you guys drove over from Pretoria with your bakkies, and you gave your presentation. And then we realized that you are here to stay. I mean, it's not and that was the biggest portion of our presentation, to say we have to make it work. I mean, we have no alternative. That is what we do for a living, and it's important to us to make this. It's not one of our developments that we're going to do. At that stage, that was the development. And they believe that because we are so committed that we can make it work. And I think we were very successful. We started developing Waterfall, we started developing Mall of Africa. At that stage was the biggest single development of a shopping center in South Africa. And then we built up another portfolio, and we listed that as Attack. So we're not involved in Attack at all anymore, but what we did is we built a portfolio, put a group of people together, and listed that. So Atterbury always remained a private company. And the reason for that is, I think that property is a long-term investment. If you have to make an investment, you often get the chance, you've got a shopping center, now you have to replace the aircon. So you can either do a cheap thing, and it will last 2 or 3 years, or you can spend a bit more and it will last 10 years. But unfortunately, on the JSE, people make shorter term decisions. You know, they want to see a dividend every 6 months or every 12 months. And you can't be led by those decisions if you make a property decision. A property is a long-term decision. And that's why I always said I don't want to be in the listed space. We want to spend a bit extra on property. You want to make it a bit nicer, but that costs you money and that costs you the dividend. And unfortunately, the market only evaluates you by the dividend that you declare. En dis die een ding wat ek fundamenteel verskil van, ek wil amper sê die eiendomssektor en eiendomsmaatskappye wat belê en wat elke 6 maande dividende moet verklaar, die REITs, want jy gaan op die einde van die dag verkeerde besluite maak vir 'n eiendom. Ek het al baie keer gesien, daar's eiendomme wat ons in vennootskap met genoteerde maatskappye het. Die besluite wat hulle neem en die besluite wat ons wil neem is heeltemal verskillend. Hulle sin gaan net oor hoeveel kontant het ons hierdie jaar en wat se dividend gaan ons verklaar. Ons sin gaan oor, as ek oor 10 jaar die regte besluit het, as ek nou besluit kan neem wat my vir 10 jaar gaan hou, dan gaan ek nou 'n bietjie meer spend. Maar dan het ek nie geld vir 'n dividend nie. So, and I think that's one of the reasons why Atterbury never went into a listing. Okay, but I deviated a bit. So then in 2010, we decided to diversify and we ventured into Africa. We did, between 2010 and 2015, 8 shopping centers in Africa. We did 3 in Ghana, 1 in Nigeria, 1 in Zambia, Manda Hill, 1 in Angola. And I must say that was the biggest mistake of our life. I mean, the time that we wasted in Africa, and the reason is simple. You know, you think you do a dollar investment because your lease agreements, your contracts, everything is in dollars. The problem is your funding is unfortunately in rands. So you sit in South Africa, you borrow in rands, and you think you're fine because you're going to get dollar income and the rand should depreciate. But now the problem in Africa is it's very reliant on commodities, for instance. Zambia is on copper and Nigeria is on oil. And the moment something went wrong with the commodity or the commodity price, the fact that you've got a shopping center with tenants that's got lease agreements in dollars doesn't help because their customers earn local currency. Die ou in Nigeria in Naira, die ou in Zambia is dit Cedi, ek dink kan ek nou eers nee, Kwacha, ek dink Cedi is in Ghana. So die probleem is, daai ou het nie fisies meer die geld om die produkte te koop nie, so die huurder van jou het nie die geld om sy huur te betaal nie. So alhoewel jy dink jy's gehedge, jy het 'n dollar inkomste en jy moet 'n verband betaal. Daai dollar inkomste werk glad nie. Daai dollar inkomste, die oomblik wat die plaaslike commodity val, het daai ons nie meer geld nie. So ons het jy het ongelooflike diep sakke nodig om daai tipe ontwikkelings te doen. So ons het 7-8 jaar was ons in Afrika en ons het dit was net eenvoudige mors van tyd. Toe ons so in 2014 we decided to venture into Europe. We said we want to expand Atterbury into Europe. So we first went to Western Europe, the UK, Germany. We had a look at all, but we soon realized that what gives Atterbury a competitive edge, the ability to move fast, the entrepreneurship. In Western Europe, it counts for zero. You know, if you want to do a new shopping center in some place in France, the local legislation is it's so eng, it's so streng that if there's a current shopping center, it have to close down before they allow you to do a new shopping center. So there's no competition allowed. So eintlik is dit maar net die ou met die meeste geld wat suksesvol kan wees in Wes-Europa in eiendom. Weet, as jy baie geld het, kan jy 'n bestaande sentrum koop of jy kan iets doen. Maar dit help jou niks dat jy entrepreneurs is en jy kan 'n ding vinnig doen en jy kan 'n stuk grond kry nie. Ons het op daai stadium het ons toe besef, maar Oos-Europa is heeltemal anders. If you look at Eastern Europe, it's much more of an emerging market, very similar to South Africa. Eastern Europe was it was die communisme was tot 92, 93 was dit groot in Oos-Europa. So I mean they came out of communism more or less the same time as the new South Africa in 94 happened. But now you must remember, a person in Eastern Europe, firstly, when they shopped in the communist eras, they get a coupon, they go to one shopping center, not a shopping center, a shop like a Macro or a Game. And with that coupon, you buy everything. You buy your clothing, you buy your fridge, you buy your food. Dis hoe daai sisteme gewerk het. And I'll tell you now why I'm going to name all the issues, because I will tell you why the South Africans are so successful in Eastern Europe. So the first thing is, these guys, they weren't used to high street shopping. It's not like in London where you've got Oxford Street and you can walk down Oxford Street and you've got all these thousands of shops. They go to one place, a macro, and they buy everything there. The second thing, you must remember, these guys all lived in apartments, which they got from the communist governments. So when communism came to an end, those apartments was handed over to them. So nou sit jy met 'n klomp mense wat almal woonstel het en hulle skuld nie 'n sent nie. So hulle is gewoond om na een plek toe te gaan om te gaan shop. Hulle skuld nie 'n sent nie. Derde ding, all of them got extremely good education. You can't believe the level of education in those Eastern Europe countries. I mean, a normal person there working in a company would have an MBA. You can't believe what level of education they have. And then lastly, because they sit in these apartments, they like spending money on themselves. Okay, so why did I mention all of this? If you think about it, you don't really have shopping centers in Western Europe. You've got high street shopping. It's only in the last 10, 15 years. I think in London there's one or two. At Shepherd's Bush and Olympic Village, there's a Westfield. But there's no real shopping centers. It's high street shopping. In South Africa, Australia, America, you find shopping centers. That's the culture. I think South Africa got the third most shopping centers in the world. It's first America, then Australia, then South Africa. So when we then decide to go into Eastern Europe, the culture there was such that they immediately adopted the shopping center culture. Because they don't have high street shopping and they're used to going to one place, it was logical for them to go to one place to do their shopping. So instead of having a macro of a game of wat ook al, het jy nou vir hulle 'n shopping center gebou. So al die winkels is daar, maar hulle het die gewoonte om na een plek te gaan. Hulle wil nie in 'n straatjie afstap en 'n klomp winkels kry nie, want hulle ken dit nie. So nou sit jy met 4, 5 lande. I mean, we are in Serbia, Romania, Cyprus, Hungary is where we have developed. And funny enough, our biggest competition there is other South Africans. Why? Because they understand shopping centers, they understand emerging markets. En nou om in Roemenië 'n nuwe winkelsentrum te bou, moet jy deur 'n rezoning gaan net soos in Suid-Afrika. Jy moet met die stadsraad onderhandel. Nou ons is goed daarmee. Wes-Europa ken dit nie, want dit gebeur nie daar nie. Daar's 'n winkelsentrum of daar's 'n gebouetjie of 'n kantoor, hy sal daar vir 200 jaar. Niemand bou 'n nuwe een nie, want jy mag nie. So die Suid-Afrikaners kan in Oos-Europa geweldig vinnig optree, vinnig op hulle voete dink, hulle kan goed doen. So ons kompetisie is nie Wes-Europa nie. Dis Amerikaners, Jode, Suid-Afrikaners, dis ouens wat daai tipe entrepreneurskap het. So nou sit jy met ouens wat shopping centers bou, jy sit met mense wat hoogs opgelei is, they all earn a good salary, unemployment there is almost zero. I think in Romania it's 2%. So now you sit with people, they live in a little apartment, they haven't got a holiday home or a farm, they got a little apartment with no debt. Whatever money they get, they spend on themselves. They go to a shopping center, they buy the latest fashion, the latest televisions, they refurbish their apartments every 2 or 3 years. Nou dit is 'n winkelsentrum eienaar se droom. Want jy sit met 'n winkelsentrum, al jou huurders kom van Wes-Europa. Onthou, dis nie jy het nie snaakse huurders nie. Jy kry jou Zara's en jou H&M en alles wat jy in Wes-Europa kry is in hierdie winkelsentrums. Maar jy sit met 'n kliënte wat ongelooflik baie spandeer, wat daarvan hou om te spandeer. Dis hulle entertainment. They would go on a Saturday and sit in the mall for 6, 7 hours. I mean, we built food courts there. We've got 30 restaurants, but a central seating area where they eat. They will spend the day there. And that is their entertainment. And that is why shopping centers are so successful in Eastern Europe. So kom Neppie so goed doen, Mass so goed doen. Dit is op die oomblik die seksieste eiendomsaandele op die oomblik. So we started in 2014 in Eastern Europe. And what I did is, and I think where Atterbury is slightly different from, let's call it the listed sector. I went into those countries and I looked for another Atterbury. Ek het in Serbië het ons 'n maatskappy gekry, toevallig die ou wat hom begin het is my ouderdom. Hoekom? Want hy het ook in 92 toe kommuniste met te val gekom het, was dit die entrepreneurs wat die besighede gevat het. Roemenië het ons presies dieselfde gekry. Our partner in Romania is my age. He was an entrepreneur when he was 25 years old. Communism came to an end. But those are the guys that's now the successful entrepreneurs, businessmen in those countries. En hulle het almal eiendomskampanetjies begin. Hulle het nie die skill wat ons het nie, maar hulle het die kontakte, hulle is die entrepreneurs, hulle verstaan retail. En toe ons nou by die ouens uitkom, dis net 'n logiese partnership. We understand shopping centers. We understand how to develop that. And these guys got the local knowledge. So we went into partnership with these guys. And we've got now a business that's far bigger than Atterbury in South Africa. We have in Eastern Europe with these partners. En ons het skilltafel toe gebring, ons het verstaan hoe om shopping centers te ontwikkel, hoe om dit werk. Hulle die plaaslike kennis en ons het saam nuwe winkelsentrums gebou. We currently sit on a portfolio of 8 or 9 shopping centers. Now, if I say a shopping center, some of them are larger than Mall of Africa and more modern. I mean, you won't believe the quality of the shopping centers that you will find there. En so ons het toe, well, where we now in 2024, ons gaan, I think we're going to start 2 more shopping centers, one in February, March next year in Cyprus, and then another one in Romania. Then we'll have about 10 shopping centers in partnership with local partners. And we always measure the performance of a shopping center. You look at the trading densities. What turnover does that shopping center generate per square meter? Now, in those countries, you're between 3 and 4 times the trading density is what you will find in South Africa. So jy gaan 3-4 keer die turnover doen wat jy in Suid-Afrika doen. Hoekom? Want jy kry 3-4 keer die aantal voete deur daai winkelsentrum. In Suid-Afrika is ons 10 voete, ons noem dit nou maar 10 voete per vierkante meter per maand. Om jou idee te gee, Mall of Africa is 130,000 vierkante meter. So you need 1.3 million feet per month. Then you've got a successful shopping center. Koos wat iets wat kleiner is. Woodlands is omtrent 50,000 squares. You need 500,000 feet. In Eastern Europe, you get 3 times that. A Mall of Africa there would get between 3 and 4 million feet per month through that center. Dis hoekom Oos-Europa so as ek 15 jaar terug geweet het wat ek vandag weet, het ek nie in Afrika aangegaan nie, ek het toe al in Oos-Europa aangegaan. Daar was ons al baie verder as wat ons nou is. Nou, die lesse, what lessons have I learned, or why is Atterbury successful? En ek dink ons is successful. Ek dink in Suid-Afrika konteks, weet, as jy nou in Pretoria kyk, of het nou die Village is, Klap, hierdie area, Castlegate, ek dink ons fokus op niche produkte, weet, die ouens praat altyd van pockets of excellence. Ons verstaan nie al die eiendomsontwikkeling wat daar is nie, maar ons verstaan hoe om 'n Linwood Bridge te bou, of hoe om 'n Castlegate te bou, of om 'n village te doen. Dit is wat ons sukses is in Suid-Afrika. En of ons dit hier doen, en of ons dit in die Weskaap, ons het groot kantore daar ook, dit is waarop ons hier fokus. Maar okay, wat is die rede vir ons sukses? Ek dink die eerste ding, as ek nou so half deur die lesse gaan, so kom ons begin eers, weet, baie mense sê hulle is entrepreneurs. Elke tweede ou sê vir jou, nee, hy gaan enige entrepreneur word. Dan vra ek vir jou nou, wat is 'n entrepreneur? Weet, geef my 'n definisie van 'n entrepreneur. En ja, dan weet jy ou nie eintlik. Weet, nou snaaks genoeg, en ek is nie 'n taalkundig nie, blykbaar kom entrepreneur van 'n Franse woord wat risiko beteken. As iemand nou hier Frans is en ek verkeerd, moet asseblief nie dit sê nie, maar dis wat iemand vir my gesê het. Entrepreneur beteken risiko. Dit is om risiko te neem. My definisie van entrepreneurskap is klein bietjie anders. Ek sê 'n entrepreneur is iemand wat 'n geleentheid sien om iets vir iemand anders makliker te maak en hy vra geld daarvoor. En kom ek neem 'n voorbeeld. I mean, you'll go to a taxi rank and you'll see a lady who goes every morning to the market and buy tomatoes, and she put it in a little plastic bag and she sells them 4 at a time. Now that is an entrepreneur. She saw something. There's people that goes to a taxi rank. They don't have time to go and shop at the Woolies or Checkers or whatever, but they need food. So now you get somebody that will go to the market, buy a whole lot of whatever it is, carrots or whatever. They will package it small and they will sell it. En hulle maak 'n helse wins per worteltjie op daai pakkie. Maar hoekom? Hulle het 'n geleentheid gesien wat hulle bereid is om dit makliker te maak vir iemand en iemand is bereid om daarvoor te betaal. Dit is wat 'n entrepreneur is. Hy sien 'n geleentheid, hy sien 'n opportunity. Hy's bereid om dit te doen. Hy vat risiko. Daai dame wat by die taxi rank sit, het haar eie geld gevat en 'n klomp tomaties gaan koop. As sy dit nie verkoop kry nie, dan is sy bankrot daai aand, of die goed is vrot, of sy moet dit weggooi, maar sy verkoop dit weer. So dit in essence is wat 'n entrepreneurskap is. Dit is om in Castlegate, daar het 'n stuk grond gelê, julle weet almal waar is Castlegate, dit lê al 500 jaar daar. Ek oordryf, lê 100 jaar daar, ek weet nie hoe oud Pretoria nie. Niemand het nog ooit gesê, ja, maar kom ons bou 'n shopping center hier nie. Maar as jy logies daaraan gaan dink, wat is naby aan daai area? Dis Menden, of is Brooklyn, of dis Irene, maar daar is eintlik 'n helse groot area wat niks het nie. En ons het gegaan en gesê, jy's like, maar wie as jy nou na hierdie area kyk, en wat eintlik gebeur het, Dis-Chem het na ons gekom en gesê, kan julle ons nie help met 'n Dis-Chem in hierdie area nie? Volgende oomblik kom checkers na ons en sê, ja, maar ons wil graag in hierdie area wees. Toe begin ons en sê, ja, maar jy moet dan iets, weet, as almal hier wil wees, dan moet dit reg wees. So wat het ons gedoen? Ons het die risiko gevat, die grond gekoop, 'n ding gebou, en hy werk soos 'n bom. Maar dis eintlik common sense. Eintlik na die tyd sê almal, ja, ons kan nie glo dat hier nog nooit 'n shopping center was nie, ons is eintlik 'n logiese plek om in te sit. So dit is my definisie van entrepreneurskap. Nou, wat die tweede ding wat nogal hand aan hand met dit gaan is, baie mense kom na my toe en dan sal hulle sê, yes, ek het nou 'n kind, hy's nou staat 9 of staan in matriek, hy soek nou vakansiewerk, kan hy bietjie by Atterbury kom werk, of kan hy in hierdie plek gaan werk, en dan sê ek nie, maar wat wil doen? Nee, maar hy kan Excel doen, en hy kan op die rekenaar. Dis nie hoe jy ondervinding gee nie. Ek sê altyd vir 'n ou, as jy vir jou kind wil ondervinding gee, as jy vir hulle 'n les in die lewe gee, leer hulle om te verkoop. Verkoop is om in 'n restaurant te werk, en kos te verkoop, of om in Edgars te werk en klere te verkoop. Want die res van jou lewe, die suksesvolle sakemanne kan verkoop. Nie produkte nie, en jy moet jouself verkoop. Jy moet, as ek by 'n meeting instap, moet ek myself kan verkoop. Ek moet my company kan verkoop. Ek moet my idee kan verkoop. Ek moet die produk kan verkoop. Maar dit is waaroor besigheid gaan. So as jy 'n kind het, of 'n klein kind, en hulle wil besigheidsondervinding optel, moenie laat hy by 'n vriend se besigheid gaan werk en op agter 'n rekenaar sit vir die hele vakansie nie. Hy gaan geen ondervinding opkry nie. Vat hom na 'n plek toe waar hy leer om te verkoop, wat hy leer hoe om 'n kliënt te hanteer, 'n customer wat moeilik is. As jy in 'n restaurant is, I mean, you get customers that's extremely difficult. That waiter must learn how to sell something to him. If he's unhappy, he must make him happy. He must sell the food, he must sell that. So, die beste leerskool wat jy vir enige iemand kan gee, sit hulle in 'n posisie waar hulle moet leer om te verkoop. Daar's niks wat by dit kom nie. Die mense wat by Atterbury kom werk, jy kan dadelik sien wie kan verkoop en wie kan nie. En verkoop, almal dink verkoop is, I must sell products. Dis nie wat dit is nie. Jy moet 'n idee kan verkoop. Jy moet jouself verkoop, jy moet jou company verkoop. So as julle vir julle kinders 'n tool wil gee wat hulle reg deur die lewe, stel hulle bloot aan verkope. En hoe doen jy dit? Jy sit hulle in 'n posisie. Ek het in staat 6 het ek begin werk in waar sit die bakery. Ek het my hele hoërskoollewe, my hele universiteit daar gewerk. Ek het hamburgers verkoop en goed. Wat? Jy leer om met mense te praat en jy praat en jy weet om te verkoop en jy het al hierdie ding getraai. Dis nogal lekker. En daai ding, die res van jou lewe bly dit by jou by. Dan 'n ander ding, ek het nou vir julle gesê, in Eastern Europe, we went into partnerships. Most of our deals in South Africa, in Eastern Europe, in Africa, is in partnership. Why? Because Atterbury haven't got enough money. We're not a listed company. We're not Old Mutual. We're not a pension fund. We have to use our own capital, and we haven't got enough. So in order to do a Castlegate, I have to convince, hier's ek nou weer by verkoop, the owner of the land to partner with us. I didn't have the money to buy the land from him. So ek het vir die eienaar gesê, wie wat, ek kan jou bietjie gee, maar kom saam met ons, dan doen ons die ontwikkeling saam. Vat 'n aandeel in hom. En meeste van ons ontwikkelings, die ouens wat in Oos-Europa is, ek's in partnership met almal van hulle. Okay, nou wat beteken dit om in partnership te wees? Ek sê altyd vir die ouens by die werk, of jy nou verkoop of jy in partnership gaan, dit gaan oor een ding. Jy moet luister, wat is die ander ou se behoefte? Jy kan nie glo hoe mis die mense dit nie. Jy weet, ons moet baie keer, you have to renew a lease agreement. So you've got a tenant, they in one of your buildings, it's now 5 years later. Now I have to get an escalation. He's currently paying 100 Rand and I'm hoping to get 120 Rand. Meeste ouens, they would walk in and say, okay, we want 120 Rand, and now you start negotiating. He only want to offer you 90, and that's not the way to do it. The first thing you do is you start listening. You go into the meeting and you say to the guy, listen, you've been here for 5 years, are there any issues? En gewoonlik is dit klein goedjies. The guy don't like his signage, he wants a more prominent place, or he doesn't like his parking space, or klein goedjies, klein goedjies. So what you do is you listen to what he wants, and you give it to him. Ek gee altyd vir die ou by Castlegate, jy kan nie glo nie, Almal het hom genader om daai grond te koop. Dis Karel Erasmus, hy is van die Erasmus familie. En hy het in, en hy het in daai, jy weet daai spookhuis wat daar daai kasteel, dis waar hy groot geword het. Hy wil 'n legacy nalos. Hy het nie geld nodig nie. Hy wil 'n legacy. Dit is die Erasmus familie, dis die Erasmus kloof. Toe ek dit agterkom, toe sê ek vir hom, "Jy's like Karel man, wie wat? Ek dink ons moet hierdie plek vernoem na waar jy groot geword het. Ons noem dit Kaselkyk want jy het in die kasteel daar groot geword. En die tema is kasteel en ons het nou strate daar en ons binne 5 minute is daai ou sold. Verstaan, al die ander ouens het probeer om sy grond te koop, maar almal wil net met hom onderhandel wat is die prys. Ek het nie eers by die prys begin nie. Ek het agtergekom wat is die ou se issue en ek het daai issue aangespreek. En deur dit te doen, het ek 'n deal met hom gedoen. Die voorbeeld wat ek nou gebruik by 'n huurder wat nou het hy 'n probleem met sy signage of het 'n probleem met sy. Jy gee vir hom alles. Jy sê vir hom wie wat ons gaan jou sign verander. Ons gaan hy hou nie van die badkamer se teëls nie. Dis fyn, ons gaan die teëls verander. Teen die tyd wat jy nou sê wat jy wil hê, het jy al soveel goed vir hom toegegee wat gewoonlik irrelevant is. Dis klein goedjies. Hy voel te sleg om vir jou te sê, "Oké nee, ek gaan nie nou 110 betaal nie." So as ek ingestap het en gesê, "Luister, ek soek R120 'n square meter," dan ons onmiddellik was ons in 'n bakleierery en ons het nou gestry, is dit nou R120 of R90. Ek het begin deur vir hom alles te gee wat hy wil hê, obviously binne perke. Heel aan die einde, toe sê ek vir hom, "Wie wat, just like my, ek moet dan Jenna nou van 100 na 120 eskaleer, weet anders werk my somme nie." Maar nou daai ou in sy kop al 5 battles gewen. Wat eintlik klein goedjies is. Ek beloof julle elke liewe keer as ek suksesvol met onderhandelinge as gevolg van dit. Weet ons het baie keer we have to take part in tenders. Nie staatstenders nie, ek stel glad nie in dit belang nie. Private, ek wil ons byvoorbeeld ons het nou Deloitte se gebou. So we compete against other developers. My first thing always what I say to the guys, the decision makers, here's a list of all my clients, tenants, buildings that we've got. Pick any one of them, phone them and ask them what type of landlord is Atterbury. Do they look after their tenants? And then do the same with competition, whether it's Grove Point or Old Mutual or whoever tenders, do the same with them. Moenie almal kan vir jou mooi storieetjies vertel, maar bel die ou met wie, because I say to the guys, if we're going to do a building for you, it's a partnership, it's a marriage. I can show you pretty pictures, but we have to have a 10-year relationship. And if that doesn't work, weet ek sê altyd dis soos 'n troue, weet 'n vrou kan mooi lyk, sy kan lipstick aan hê alles, maar as dit nie reg is nie, dan gaan dit nie werk nie. Dis wat partnership is. So jy moenie 'n ding verkoop en jy's nie bereid om al die pad te gaan nie. Dis wat ons suksesvol maak. Ek dink ons is goeie partners, ons kan 'n goeie verhouding met mense bou en dis hoekom ons suksesvol is. Dan 'n ander ding wat ek ook al gesien het baie maatskappye, ek sê altyd vir ouens, sorg dat jy 'n besluit neem. Jy kan nie glo hoeveel mense kom nie by 'n besluit uit nie. Jy weet hulle sit om 'n tafel, ook en hulle bespreek goeders al in die ronde, maar niemand is bereid om 'n call te maak nie. En ek gee nie eens om in ons maatskappy. Ek gee nie om as jy ou die verkeerde call maak nie. Want dan kan jy ten minste dit weer regmaak. Maar daar's niks wat 'n maatskappy so agteruit laat gaan if nobody is prepared to make a decision. Nou, is dit nie wat in ons land aan die gang is nie. Ek bedoel ons sit met 'n president wat nie 'n besluit kan maak nie. En alles is besig om te draai en agteruit te gaan. Ek vat eerder 'n ou wat 'n besluit maak wat ek nie van hou nie, maar nou het ek iets om mee te werk. Nou kan ek iets doen. As terwyl die ou nie besluit maak nie, kan niemand iets doen nie. So die hele ding gaan staan stil. En dit is so ek sê altyd in 'n maatskappy gaan soek as jy nou wil belê in 'n maatskappy, gaan soek in 'n maatskappy, gaan belê in 'n maatskappy waar die besluitnemer 'n besluit kan maak. Wat dit nie net aanhou en aandraai en aangaan nie. Dit is vir my amper een van die crucialste goed is. Dan die wat is daar nou nog? Ek probeer nou dink of daar nou nog lesse is wat ons geleer het. Empowerment. I think there's very little companies that do more for empowerment than Atterbury. For instance, I mean, we've got over 800 students over the last 20 years that went through university. We've got a clinic in Pretoria West. Ons het 'n klomp goed, but it's not empowerment that the government wants, because that is wrong. I mean, I've never agreed with the empowerment the way the government wants that, because that is not what empowerment is. Want as dit was, dan sou dit gewerk het, dit werk glad nie. Ek bedoel, die mense is nie empowered nie. Maybe 5 or 6 guys is super rich, maar die rest van die mense is nie empowered nie. So I will never support that form of empowerment, maar dit beteken nie, ons doen nie empowerment nie, ons doen ongelooflik empowerment, but where it is needed. We do empowerment for people that need empowerment. So dit is dit en wat doen ons met die wetgewing? Want daar is obviously wetgewing. We see it as opportunity. So if there is a specific thing that we need empowerment according to government to tender on, then we would do a specific deal on that transaction, do an empowerment deal on that. But I see it as opportunity. I don't regard that as empowerment because I know it's not empowerment. It is a rule that the government have put there and that we have to adhere to, and we use it to make money. But empowerment is to look after people that need to be looked after. That is what empowerment is. En dit is hoe Atterbury vir die laaste, ons is nou amper 30 jaar oud, ons empowerment gedoen het en ons gaan nie afwyk daarvan nie. Ek het nog nooit afgewyk en ek sal ook nie afwyk daarvan nie. En dit werk vir ons. So daar's 'n klomp goed wat ons miskien bietjie anders doen as die ander ouens, maar ek dink ons is suksesvol. So ek wil vir die mense sê dankie vir die geleentheid dat ek ons storie kan kom vertel. En soos ek sê, dis omtrent dit wat ek het om te sê. So ek weet nie as daar vrae is, kan julle vra, maar baie dankie vir die geleentheid.
Baie